some kind of a goodbye press conference at Joint Base Andrews, and his plane is now taken off, I think, back to California. And we just heard President Trump assail and really go to town in ad-lib style on what Joe Biden did just before the end of his presidency while all this was happening under the rotunda with all of these pardons.
Yeah, I got to tell you something. This is, if you want to know what speech prep is, this is what he was thinking. This speech was what President Trump was thinking, that he wanted to add into his original speech. And he said, well, let's not make it complicated. Let's make the speech beautiful. So this is unscripted Trump. This is Trump basically talking from his heart to his supporters of what he really wanted to include in the speech, but instead he waited to give the A-plus treatment to this group of fans.
And this is a different group. These are not the members of Congress.
Yeah.
These are people who are just lucky enough to get tickets and come here.
Supporters and governors.
The governors and high-level leaders and from different conservative groups and grassroots groups. So it's
Your husband
really,
was in the room?
Yes, Matt's there.
And the way he nodded, he tipped his hat rather to Governor Abbott of Texas.
Yes.
Who was there in the overflow room of all things, because he is, of course, the big border.
You know what that felt like, honestly, is like when you have a conversation with him when you're not recording, like
yes.
have an off, like when you're just sitting at a table with him talking and he just goes and just that's what it was. That was a very intimate conversation with him.
One interesting note is when he said, when he was saying goodbye to President Biden, and then he spoke to Senator Chuck Schumer, and he said, I wish we would have a better relationship with the Democrats. That to me is very telling, because he was friends with Senator Chuck Schumer.
I was going to say, he was closer to the Democrats than he was to the Republicans through most of his life, and they loved him. I mean, they had great relationship. They said great things about him, and he becomes a Republican, and boom, 180. He's a demon, and they won't do anything.
And don't forget, he's not going to be. He has no chance for a second term. So he said, he doesn't have to make more political navigating that a first-term president would.
I think you're going to see him try to make a lot of deals. But that some of us may not be happy about, but he'll try to make deals.
We've got Senator Mike Rounds joining us, who watched that speech along with us, that second speech from the president as well as the first. Senator, good to see you from just behind us in the Capitol. Your thoughts on the speech we just heard?
Well, I didn't catch all of it, but I could see the energy that he had. And this is a guy that just finished up with his inaugural speech, and then he turns right around and does it again for another group of people that were his supporters and that he wanted to simply connect with. And he just does a great job on these. And today, I felt the energy in the Capitol Rotunda. His message about energy and the development and making America see a golden time period was really well received by the vast majority of the people that were there in the rotunda. And then he comes right back outside again and takes on one more message and does it all off the cuff. Look, this is a guy that really believes in what he's talking about. He's going to stay consistent with his message. So for us, we want to get to work. We're ready to get back into session. We want to get his nominees completed. We will be taking on legislation today that will assist him in that. We're just looking forward to getting the ball rolling.
We're hearing that Rubio could be confirmed tonight as Secretary of State. Are you seeing that as well?
We haven't had that confirmed yet, but it is a strong possibility. We know that for Pete Hegseth, we've got to get him out of committee. We're going to plan on doing that this evening yet. And then there will be a delay from the time that we have to give a proper notice before we can bring him to the floor of the Senate. But I'm optimistic that there will be a number of these nominees that will be confirmed in short order, but Marco's probably at the top of the list.
As far as the speech that we watched in the rotunda that you were at, it was very political. It was very honest. It was brutal, I think, toward the outgoing administration. What did you see when you looked over onto the right side and you saw Biden sitting there with Kamala? I noticed at one point Joe actually fell asleep. His eyes were closed for about 45 minutes.
Well, we don't know if he was sleeping. We don't know if he's sleeping.
His eyes were closed.
He might be praying, Rob.
And then he opened it. He wasn't praying. And then he opened it and he yawned. But did you see any body language? Did you see any discomfort from them as he just assailed the last 4 years and talked about how he was going to fix all the things that they did?
I would be less than honest if I didn't tell you that it was a little uncomfortable at times. But at the same time, we had just learned that he had pardoned Leonard Peltier, who killed FBI agents in South Dakota. And this has been one that the law enforcement has been adamantly opposed to. And at the same time, he issued a number of additional pardons just before coming in for the ceremony. And so you can see the reason why there was perhaps some animosity, and there might have even been some lines changed in that messaging with regard to bringing people together because of what President Biden had done just before he walked in. It was disappointing to me to have those types of pardons being issued at the very last minute.
Senator, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be watching a lot of activity in the U.S. Senate. And now we're hearing, Rob, that the president is on the move.
Yeah.
His next step is to sign those executive orders that he has said that he will sign. And he's going to have a very sore wrist because he's going to apparently sign like crazy today.
Well, I mean, he's behind schedule. Adding this extra speech at the Emancipation Hall in the
He's not on Clinton time.
He is on
Because President Clinton was the hardest person to cover because he was never on schedule. President Bush 43 always showed up early, which was equally a problem for us on TV schedules.
Still seeing a lot of activity. Which room are we in here? Is this?
The Emancipation Hall.
That's. Oh, is it? Okay, I see Tom Cotton.
Off
Is that
of
Mitch
the
McConnell?
Visitor Center.
Right.
Is that Mitch?
I see.
Yeah. I just saw Bernie Sanders for a second. Is that okay? So that's
that
not the
over
room
here
you
is
spoke to. There's no way, right?
Now, this is, I think, where they're going to be having the luncheon. And Rick, you know this very well.
Yeah,
There's
I've
room
got
to
a
go right
glare
there.
on the
Yes.
monitor, so it's hard for me to see. But they usually have the luncheon at Statuary Hall, which I assume that's where
got
that
it.
is. Emancipation Hall, just for viewer, that's in the Visitor Center, which is out on the east front of the Capitol. It's down below. It's dug underground. They built it about 20 years ago, and there's a huge hall there for tourists to gather. So that's where the speech was that Trump gave, and now he's going to go back into the Capitol up to the old House chamber, which is called Statuary Hall.
And don't forget, we're buying time. I mean, these executive orders are typically signed over at the White House, but we have to buy time because one family has to get moved out and one family moved in. So that's, so if he signs.
And I don't think he wants to wait. I don't think he wants to wait.
But I think back at the White House, the ushers would be very happy if he's sort of slow at signing these, and they're probably thrilled that he did that second speech that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, they'll be doing. I think there's Senator John Cornyn from Texas, and we've seen several of these cabinet members as well in Statuary Hall.
Yeah.
There you've got Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, this is the luncheon that the vice president invites because the vice president is the president of the Senate, so he invites senators, and so it's a nice little gathering. It usually lasts an hour and a half or 2 hours. My guess is he will probably cut it short because
I was going to say,
he's got folks. He's got to give his speech.
Does he give a speech at this point as well?
He does.
He does, Rick. This could be another 30 minutes.
There's Susie Wiles. Now that's a very important person because a lot of viewers probably don't know who she is, but she was really
She was a campaign manager, now chief of staff.
Now chief of staff.
She's been very engaged in the transition and who's being selected.
Probably the most powerful woman in Washington is Susie Wiles, chief of staff.
I think that's absolutely true.
And let's go to Rob Astorino. He is at Lafayette Square, which is right across from the White House. Rob?
Hey, Greta. Hey, everybody. So it is an interesting day so far, as you've been witnessing. So we're outside in front of the White House, basically, where the parade was supposed to be. It will not, of course, because of the weather. But if you look to the right a little bit, you see some trucks that were bringing in some supplies and boxes for the Trumps, for the new staff. The new folks now, the executive team in the White House. They're in the executive office building, the Eisenhower building, the West Wing to the right there. And they got their key cards now. They're getting to work as it's a working day for the administration. It's Liberation Day, as he said. So the golden age has begun. And the security around this area is now looser than it was before when they were at the White House. Lafayette Park is now open. We've had some pop-up demonstrations start. And the interesting thing, you imagine Secret Service, of course, and Capitol Police, but there are police departments from all over the country that are here today and assisting with this because the perimeter is so wide. Smaller departments like Bryant, Texas, were here. and of course the great NYPD, members here on the perimeter right outside the White House as well. So it is a joint effort to get one out, the Bidens and the Trumps in. And it was nice, poignant before with Marine One flying above and over the White House as a final goodbye on their way to Joint Base Andrews to take the Bidens back to Delaware. So it's been a very interesting day, very cold day, which is, of course, why they're going to be inside the Capital One Arena. But the Trump pen is getting ready to sign all those executive orders. And one thing that I don't think anyone in law enforcement likes, and that's some of the pardons that were given, especially the one that grants freedom, basically, to and wipes the record clean of an FBI killer to go along with the 37 others that he did previously, and of course the Bidens. It's going to be very interesting whether or not that could be challenged, the preemptive pardons for the Biden family and others who haven't been charged of anything yet. So that's more of a legal question. Will somebody take that up? I don't know. Maybe Greta. Greta's a great lawyer. What do you think, Greta?
No, I'm rusty. I'm too rusty. I don't do that stuff. Thank you, Rob. Mercedes, I have a question for you based on what Rob said. You worked at the White House. I mean, all the people who now are in the Trump administration, what do they get handed cards? They've never been in the White House. They don't know where their offices are.
That is right.
What do you just look at your number like a hotel room?
The word talking, when you talk to these political appointments, we're doing so much paperwork because you're doing all the FBI background checks, you're doing your financial disclosures. It is a long list of paperwork that you have to complete, and they're still hiring people as we're going along. So you've got to get your badges and your security badges to be able to get it in and out of the building. It's a lot of work to do to get them all settled in. But the good thing is you have some veterans mixed with some new people, and that's what Susie Wiles has, the team she's put together.
All right, let's go to Senator Eric Schmidt, Republican from the great state of Missouri. Sir, what your thoughts today? We've had two speeches from the new president, one on teleprompter, probably scripted, and the other one rather Trump-esque. He just was talking to the people.
Yeah, well, I was in the rotunda for, Vice President Vance and President Trump to take their oath of office, and then President Trump delivered his remarks. He came with his fastball, and I think it was really important to outline what the vision looks like, and it's an optimistic one. It's ushering a new age, a golden age for America, where we have a secure border and we're energy dominant. That is the kind of stuff President Trump's been talking about on the campaign trail for quite literally years. And now he's got a chance to deliver it. You're going to see a flurry of executive actions here today, and it's time to get to work.
You were an attorney general from your home state of Missouri before you became a senator. Your thoughts on what we just saw from Joe Biden as he left? All of these new pardons issued, including for a number of members of his family after that investigation in Congress elicited this big scheme that is out there and obvious, but is not widely reported on. A very corrupt family, a very corrupt president, and this move 20 minutes before he leaves office.
It's a total disgrace, and it's a sad final footnote in a chapter that really has defined a failed presidency. And he really is lawless. He came in promising to sort of, protect norms, and all he's done is bulldoze our constitutional protections.
Absolutely.
He presided over a vast censorship enterprise. I brought that lawsuit in Missouri versus Biden. He tried to imprison his political opponent, and now he's pardoning some of the worst of the worst. It really is embarrassing.
There's something else. As we go to tonight, I just asked Mike Rounds the same question. Are you guys going to get to some business tonight in the Senate? It sounds like perhaps we could see a confirmation or possibly a bill passed even late tonight and maybe certainly tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the Laken Riley Act, which again is sort of on point here with the executive orders we're going to see in securing our border. We're going to get that done, I think, and then Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, that's going to move swiftly. Pete Hegseth, I'm on the Armed Services Committee. We're looking to move that out of committee as quickly as we can, get to a floor vote. Pam Bondi the same, and we're going to start having these votes here rapidly. For those hearings you saw last week, I think you're going to start seeing votes this week to move those nominees forward, and so President Trump can have his team, especially his national security team.
What's your confidence level on the Hegseth nomination?
I think he's going to get through. I do. I think they're all going to get through. I think historically it would be rare for any of them not to get through. Since Bill Clinton, guys, there's only been 3 no votes for a Senate and a president of the same party. meaning, to actually spike a nominee is exceptionally rare. I think he's put together a team of reformers, a team of disruptors, and you heard that in his speech today. His election, I think, in this great political comeback was, being a voice of the people. The people want disruptors versus the establishment, and I think that's what defines his team.
I just want to ask you one more question. The big beautiful bill, as the president calls it, is that staying all together as one? Any update on the progress of that bill?
Well, we're committed, whatever form, it's one bill or two bills. I think that I'd like to get some early wins, but whether it's one or two, I think we're all committed to this mission here. President Trump swept the battleground states, won the popular vote, and the things that are going to be in one or two bills, they need to get done. And so I know, in the Senate, we had a breakfast with President Trump yesterday. We're committed to getting all these things done, and we're going to work with the House to do it. This is, I think, my final point I would make here is, I think one of the important aspects of leadership is understanding the moment that you're in, the actual landscape. And this is my third year in the Senate. And whether I'm here for 12 years or just 6 years or whatever that number is, it's quite possible that these next 2 years are the most consequential of the time that I get to serve, and maybe for the future of the Republic, because there's so many things that need to get fixed from the last 4 years. So I don't think there's any time to waste. We got to get to work. We got to deliver. And I think if we do that, we're going to have a much more prosperous, much safer country that we can all be proud of.
Senator Schmidt, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you, sir. And you've been watching special coverage of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump. We've been taking you through every moment of what's been a really crazy day. I'll tell you the best part real quick before we go. When the cannons went off for the 21 guns, 100 feet away, and it was so loud. Wow. The power of that was just amazing. From this perspective, with the Capitol just behind us, was really, really cool.
I think we're a little colder than they are in Capitol Hill. Just saying.
Thank you so much for joining us for this, and the coverage continues when we come back. They're going to swap us out because we've got shows at 6 and 7 o'clock right here on Newsmax, but these guys are staying.
So, we're going to swap out right now. We're going to hand it over to Bob Brooks and Katrina Sitch, and hosts of American Agenda. Oh, wait. Hold it one second. We're going to wait to see the president. Robin, I won't give it up yet.
Hang on.
Hold on. Robin, I want to see the president. Yeah, you're...
Was it great? We went to the helicopter. It was freezing. The sun is a little deceptive.
Yes, it is.
So what would you like us to do?
Sign your orders.
Official documents.
Okay, I assume they're going to be happy with these documents?
Yeah, they're we might not be here.
It's the next step.
It's a tradition.
Sir, the first is 22 cabinet and cabinet level appointments for your signature.
Okay.
The next one will be, the next one will be 47 sub-cabinet level appointments, sir.
But you don't have to sign 47 times.
Thank you, sir. Now 31 acting designations and appointments to effectively take control of the government.
Let's do that.
That's important.
That's important. There's another.
And we have 15 commission chairman and acting chairman appointments.
Send here.
Commission chairman and acting chairman.
He was #1 at Harvard also. You know that?
Good counsel.
They have something in common.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, we have a proclamation ordering that on all future inauguration days, including this inauguration day, that flags shall be flown at full mast.
Very important.
thought it was a beautiful place to have an inauguration tonight. The sound was so good. The temperature was 72 degrees, but the sound was so good. So maybe something to think about. I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good acoustics. Yes.
All right. Now we,
That's
thank you. We go to lunch.
Great. Very
Nice
good.
to meet you. Thank you very much. There we go. Take that. All right. See you.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Did you have a good meeting with former President Biden?
Very nice. Very nice. It's a beautiful custom.
Mr. President,
It goes back as long as helicopters. Before that, it was a stagecoach. But I thought it was beautiful. Thank you. Great job. Great job. Thank you. Check.
Mr. President, do you have any reaction to the pardons President Biden did at the last minute?
Well, I'm not going to discuss it now. I think it was unfortunate that he did that. We won't discuss it now. There's plenty of time to discuss it.
Thank you very much, guys.
Should we go to lunch?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay.
Head to lunch?
Ready for lunch? Okay. Thank you. All right.
That was 3 times the number of appointments you did in 2017, sir. Plenty of time. Just getting started.
A lot of good work that you brought home.
So where are we going to stop it? Good counsel.
Try to look through your documents.
So that's when they get green.
Thank you.
That was great. That was great. That was great. Standing ovation.
I liked it.
Statuary Hall, which was the original House chamber before the expansion of the Capitol building. Many presidents, if you go there, there are plaques of where presidents who sat. Abraham Lincoln, there's a plaque of right there, sort of almost in the middle of the floor there is Abraham Lincoln's plaque where his desk was when he was a House member. And this is where you see statues. Every state in the country can send 2 statues to the United States Capitol and have them displayed. So you'll see a bunch of statues there, and actually all throughout the Capitol building there are statues from the various states. But this is where the largest concentration is.
And this is where the president is heading next, right?
Correct.
And this is
for the House and Senate lunch.
Yeah.
But the host sort of is the president of the Senate, which would be Vice President J.D. Vance at this point.
J.D. Vance, yes.
So the executive orders will come after lunch? They'll come...
Depends how fast.
All I can
your
say,
guess is as good as mine.
all I can say is that at the rally, at
Yeah.
the Capitol Arena rally, there is a desk for the president to sign executive orders.
Today.
Maybe where he's going to do
That we have seen the photos.
Okay,
That will be
that's
interesting
probably-
if they just move those executive order signings.
I'd be very
to that
surprised he
area.
would sign them here at the lunch, but I think that he's going to sign them in front of the crowd.
But there's a bit of unpredictability.
Yeah,
that
you
we're
never know
seeing
with him.
With this particular inauguration,
Yeah.
as we've seen, going down and speaking to supporters and giving the more unscripted speech of President Trump of what he would have included in his inaugural address, but didn't.
And by the way, the speech itself was pretty tough. So, I mean, it's not like he sugarcoated the inaugural speech. He even put some icing on the cake at the next speech.
But this is such a contrast from the when he first won and when he gave the speech in 2017, when the legacy media went crazy, calling it carnage and a dark day in America and democracy is dying. It is truly such a contrast of what we saw originally on his first speech to now. I find it
all of
I
this,
think,
that contrast. I
reflective.
mean, look at Klobuchar and Hakeem, and they're smiling as he's signing. It's like, are you kidding me? You hear the things that these people
is the
say
man
about
who's a
him
threat
every
to
day.
democracy.
Are you?
Threat to democracy.
Oh, thank you, threat to democracy.
Yeah.
Please enjoy the White House.
If you can sort through the bad blood and the politics and the animosity of the two parties, is that we just got a great history lesson today. Of things and sorting through all the content. It's amazing. But anyway, so as I started to say before, Rob and I are going to hand it off to our 2 two colleagues. I started to say that.
Unless Trump pops up again.
Bob and Katrina, and they're the hosts of American Agenda, and they are going to be joined by Carl Higbie, host of Frontline. For Rob Schmidt, I'm Greta Van Susteren. Thank you for watching this historic moment in time. We have a brand new president. We'll see you at 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back.
All right, you're looking live right now in Washington, D.C. Capital One Arena, just down the street from the Capitol. You're looking at a beautiful picture of it on a sunny and very chilly day here live. The traditional inauguration parade from the Capitol back to the White House typically happens on the streets of D.C., but as you probably heard by now, it is a little extra freezing here in the nation's capital. I can hear the wind blowing as I'm talking, and that parade has been moved inside.
Don't let that sun deceive you.
Yes.
It is cold.
It is cold. A brand new hour of our special live coverage here on Newsmax, the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump. I'm Bob Brooks, co-host of American Agenda.
And I'm Katrina Zish, Bob's co-host. And
That's right.
We have witnessed history here today. The very peaceful and I think just happy, energized transition of power from one political party to another throughout the day. We watched the president sign a flurry of executive orders, and we watched the Biden family make their traditional exit from the stage and likely to the very end of Joe Biden's political career. And now the big inauguration, or rather big celebration for the inauguration, is about to get underway inside the arena. Oh, to be one of those revelers inside.
Yes. Senator Rick Santorum here, Mercedes Schlapp. Good to have you both just as well. Let's do a little recap since Katrina and I just joined the set here. Let's talk about this speech there from the Rotunda. I think that if you voted for Trump, you want change in this country. That's exactly what you wanted to hear. I know, Senator, you may disagree slightly.
No. I mean, it's certainly what his supporters wanted to hear. It was not a typical inaugural address by any stretch of the imagination. It was a combination of rally speech and State of the Union address, and sort of laying out really in detail that you almost never see an inaugural, of point by point, like you would at a State of the Union, as to what he wants to accomplish. And the other thing that was, I don't know if it was unprecedented, but was certainly unusual, and that is a speech where the person that you're criticizing is sitting right to your left, and he went after
people enjoyed that.
He
if
went
you
after,
voted for Trump.
Yeah, he went after Joe Biden and was very, very tough in how he went after him, and his abuse of the Justice Department, of attacking him and the attacks personally, and he also was very tough on him with the border and a whole bunch of other things. Which again, the folks who love him like to see it, but he did some things. He had some great comments in there about unity and a revolution of common sense.
Rick,
I just want to say, okay, the mere fact that you saw the Democrat Party, the Department of Justice, these federal prosecutors basically try to destroy Donald Trump, I'd be pissed too and give a very strong speech like he did.
Let's listen in. Byron Donalds speaking live right now for the Congressman.
What America truly is, that is success. When we unify our efforts and we can disagree, but still keep the most perfect union ever known going, that is success. Those are the common sense ideals of America. That is the leadership that Donald Trump is going to bring. And I don't care if you're in California or Florida, that is going to be the guiding principles of the United States of America. So buckle up, everybody, because we're going to be unified. We're going to get the job done. And I don't know about you, I'm kind of sick of speeches. On Capitol Hill, a few blocks from here, we are going to get the job done, or people will be moved out of the way. God bless you guys. God bless America. God bless Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and their families. God bless you.
Welcome back in. We just heard Congressman from Florida, Byron Donalds, giving a speech there at Cap One Arena, where we know President Trump is expected to go to later today. I just think it's optimism here for everybody. And I think that's why, Mercedes, and I want to let you finish your point here, why President Trump came out and it wasn't your standard inaugural address, that he talked a lot about what people wanted to hear after what they would consider a dismal 4 years under President Joe Biden, and he got everybody pumped up.
Think about it, how precedent. We see this split image between this very formal luncheon, very traditional, Katrina used the word traditional luncheon in Statuary Hall. That, and you then right there next to it, MAGA rally goers, the people who have stood by Donald Trump from the beginning and are just so passionate about seeing this great America succeed.
Pent up energy because they couldn't be out here.
Right, but think about what every single one. Think
address.
about what every single one of those individuals who are in that rally, what they're thinking, what they're experiencing emotionally. They saw their president being with 2 assassination attempts against him. They saw their president being humiliated in the courtroom time and time again. They saw the injustices. They saw what they've done to try to destroy not only President Trump, but his family and many of his supporters. And so this is the day of hope. This is the day of America really starting to heal, to be able to do the great work that President Trump has laid out.
I think it's a great point. And, you know, Rick, you spoke about his address in the Capitol right after being sworn in. Very different, as you pointed out, from the traditional presidential address at that moment. How will that differ from the speech that he will give to all of those crowds waiting for that celebration, as Mercedes pointed out, at the Capital One Arena?
Well, I think that's where I understand we're going to see the executive order signings. So he's going to be able to really focus on the border, focus on this. This will be his first launching off. I mean, he did a laundry list of things at the inaugural speech, but here he'll really focus in on getting to work, all the things he's doing, and he's changing policy. They've already changed policy. There's people at the border right now who had appointments to come into this country illegally, and they've been canceled. So things have changed at the border already.
All right, well, let's check in now with senior correspondent John Huddy, who is live now from Lafayette Park. John, first, what's the weather like? I hope you're keeping warm, and what are you seeing over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to. We're all trying to here. That's why I got the hoodie here on my jacket. It is chilly, but it's actually a beautiful day. You know, the sun is out, so it's not as bad as it could be. Yesterday, I was outside the Capital One arena for the rally last night, and it literally started sleeting, and then it started snowing. So that was a little bit dismal. Today, one thing I want to draw your attention to, and we were kind of expecting this. So I'm standing on the media riser here on Pennsylvania Avenue. You have the grandstand across Pennsylvania Avenue. This is where President Trump, the First Lady, his family would be seated and sitting along with others in the crowd, had the parade run through here. But obviously we know that changed, the schedule changed. Now all of the pomp and circumstance, the parade, quote unquote, will be at the Cap One Center a little bit later. But on the other side is the White House. You see the North Lawn. The flags were at half staff. Of course, in honor and memoriam of Jimmy Carter, the passing of Jimmy Carter. Well, they were raised. The flags actually over the White House were raised probably about 15, 20 minutes ago. And about an hour ago, we saw Marine One passing overhead, obviously carrying Joe Biden, Jill Biden to Andrews Air Force Base, where they will say a farewell to their staff members before then leaving, I believe, going to California. I could be wrong on that, and forgive me. But so that's what we've seen, kind of the here and now. Obviously, things started today across the park at St. John's Episcopal Church with the traditional morning prayer service. It lasted about 30 minutes. They started a little bit late. But then, as we know, the Trumps and Bidens met at the White House. We saw the massive motorcade double in size of the presidential motorcade. So we saw all the Secret Service vehicles, all the law enforcement and security detail lined up here along Pennsylvania Avenue as then the motorcade went in and then took them ultimately, as we know, to the Capitol Rotunda for the swearing-in ceremonies. And finally, one of the things we're also seeing on the ground behind me on the North Lawn are some moving trucks. What looks like moving trucks anyway, guys. Back to you.
John Huddy live in the nation's capital. We appreciate it. Okay, everybody. You are watching the special coverage of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump. We're going to be right back after a quick break. Stick with our special coverage live at Capital One Arena. Howard Lutnick, Trump's pick to lead the Commerce Secretary, speaking right now. We're going to listen in live.
He's the one who said the swamp. He's the one who said the deep state. We've all heard him say it, and now we all know it's true. And his intuition is always right, so he starts talking about bad trade deals You know, that's what he thinks. So let me tell you a story about the last day on the campaign trail. So I went to meet the president in North Carolina, okay? He gets up in the morning at 8 o'clock. We get in the motorcade. He gives a speech. He goes to 3 states, 4 rallies, an hour and a half each rally, finishes midnight. We start 8 a.m. He finishes midnight, gets on the stage midnight in Grand Rapids, Michigan, speaks for 2 hours. 2 hours, never takes a nap. And when he's on the stage, he's never taken a sip of water. The man is power. He is power. See, no other president will let the administration do it. He's going to help us fix America. So, I've never been in politics before. I spent my life working and building companies, and I worked hard to build a life that really it's only possible in America. But on September 11th, when we saw our darkest day, it changed my life forever. See, my company was located on the 101st to the 105th floors of the World Trade Center. We lost 658 of our 960 New York-based employees. My younger brother Gary got killed. He was 36. My best friend Doug, 39. 658 of my friends and colleagues got killed. So 9/11 could have broken us, but we Americans, we're strong. We don't break. So we all, my employees and I, we dedicated ourselves to rebuilding the company so we could take care of the 658 families that we lost. And I want you to know, we received thousands and thousands of cards and letters. And most importantly, we received all of your prayers.
Okay, welcome back in. Howard Lutnick there speaking at Capital One Arena on a very special day here. And we're going to continue our conversation right now with Chris Emery. He is a White House usher joining us live. Chris, good to see you today. Tell us just how you're feeling, honestly, to get back into the White House there and have number 45, number 47 returning.
Well, I'm emotional now. Please understand, I was an usher for Presidents Reagan, first President Bush, and President Clinton. But watching the coverage on TV is very nostalgic for me, as I recall how busy today was, Inauguration Day, what we were doing in the White House.
All right, Chris, I have to ask you, because I think a lot of people might want to know, what exactly does a White House usher get to do? I saw a book cover behind you. Sounds like a pretty cool inside job.
It really is, and most people don't understand. But the usher's office, as Mrs. Kennedy said, the chief usher of the White House is the second most important person in Washington, D.C. And the usher's office manages the home of the first family. I was in charge of events. I work closely daily with the president and first lady to ensure their needs are met for whatever is happening in the White House. Meal preparations, meal selections, guest arrivals, renovations, you name it. It all goes through the usher's office. And we're responsible for moving out the old family and moving in the new family in the 5 to 7 hours we have on this day.
Aha. Wow. There we go. That's the key detail on
now, how do you do that? How does that happen? Talk to us about the behind the scenes and the amount of work that goes into usher in, pun intended, the new administration.
It's a place at the South grounds and the North grounds. And we start moving out the final items of the existing family and start moving in the items of the new family. Now, this involves furniture. This involves clothes. My job is to go across to Blair House and bring the clothing racks, roll them across Pennsylvania Avenue, get them to the maids. They're hanging the clothes upstairs. You got electricians rewiring things. You got engineers setting the HVAC properly. And you got the chefs who are preparing the meals. So all that for the first family, that's our primary responsibility. But in the case of President Bush, on January 20th, when he came into office, he brought 32 house guests that night. So you can imagine, we're busy moving in a family, but we've got 32 house guests we have to deal with. We're putting beds in rooms that never had beds before. But it all worked out.
That's a packed house.
Sounds like a good house party.
Yeah, I did hear Melania did basically pick the furniture several weeks ago.
I did hear the same thing. That's right.
She's had experience.
She's ready to go.
Good experience. They know what they're doing this time around. But yes, the White House Usher's Office, very important in getting the family settled.
And a very busy day for those of you who share the illustrious title with you. Thank you so much for giving us the inside scoop and joining us on this very special day.
Thank you.
All right, well, you're watching very special coverage of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump right here on Newsmax. We'll be back in just a moment.